Hello, you guys. My name's Verdusi.
I'm Patrick, and this is our presentation on the Ford 300 Inline-Six engine. Today we're going to go over all that stuff. This is our introduction. What is our project? We recreated the Ford 300 Inline-Six engine. We chose this since our group member Daniel, he has an interest in cars, and he just happened to have his engine lying around in his garage. We all agreed it would be more of a learning experience to take actual measurements than just find something off Google and copy that. What is the Ford 300 inline-six engine? Well, as the name implies, it's a six-cylinder, four-stroke internal combustion engine, similar to a lot of other engines out there. And this is a very common engine through like the 60s to the 80s when the construction of the engine stopped. It's often found in large trucks, and it's a straight six engine, which means all six cylinders are in a line as opposed to in a V or a W as other engines can be. All right, this is the mechanisms of the engine. How does it work? The Ford 300 inline-six engine functions in four main phases, which are also known as strokes. In summary, the engine creates rotational power by having gasoline explode and push back pistons. There are multiple cylinders that this happens at the same time, so it always creates constant power. The following slides go into more depth of this. So the first stroke or phase of the engine is, or of each cylinder, is when the cylinder starts up empty and the piston is closed. So there's not much space in the cylinder. The piston pulls back, which creates a vacuum, which lets air in through the intake valve, which opened up. This then goes to the compression stroke, which is phase two. This is where the piston closes. It pushes the air, it compresses it after the intake valve closes. So the air is a lot more compressed with the fuel than it was in the stage before. So it wants to push the piston back, but it can't. This is the power stroke. This is where the magic happens. When the piston's all the way compressing the air and the fuel, the spark plug will light a spark, which ignites the gasoline and creates a lot of force, pushing the piston back. This rotates the crankshaft, and this happens like it's synced with the other cylinders of the car. They don't all happen at the same time, so there's a constant flow of power. And the last stroke is the exhaust stroke. This is where the exhaust valve opens up, and then the piston goes back up and pushes out all the exhausted fuel and the air. And that's the entire cycle. It just happens again and again.
Okay, so how do we replicate this in SolidWorks? Well, we already went over how an engine moves during class, so it was really easy for us to do it again. We use cam mate, limit distant mates, gear mate, concentric mates, and other to create the mechanical movement that is seen in internal combustion engine. The pistons move up and down, the crankshaft and camshaft rotate, the rods and rocker arms also move up and down. In the assembly, you will see that the cam mate was made by using the cam path being the face of the camshaft and the cam follower being the face of the lifter. You will also see that the gear mate has a ratio of 2:1. So modeling tricks. In the following slides, I'm just gonna go over the main parts and how we were able to recreate it. This is the assembled head with the valve train. You might think it's really impossible to do. However, it turned out to be very easy. We first extruded out a general shape of the head, basically a rectangle, and then we sketched on the faces for the different openings, and we extrude cut them. A unique feature we used for this part was a loft feature to make the pipes on the front side of the head. If you follow my cursor right over here, you'll see we use loft for these openings. We also filleted many of the edges, just like how a real engine is filleted, so there aren't any sharp edges. The exhaust manifold. Um, we inserted a sketch of the assembled head with a valve train into this sketch just to make sure the openings were aligned perfectly so that when we went to assemble, there weren't any mess ups. Um, and then at the end, we just hit the valve train sketch. When you look at this picture right over here, the actual exhaust manifold, you'll see that the shape is very irregular, and we knew that besides the openings, the shape doesn't really matter for the assembly. So we made sure that the general shape and size were the same, but besides that, we didn't really go that much into like that much into the details, and this saved us a lot of time. A unique feature we used for this part was a shell feature, since this whole entire manifold is hollow, and that's a lot easier than using the extrude feature. Last but not least, the crankshaft. So this at first this part seemed very hard to do, but it was actually really easy. First, we started off by making a sketch right over here at the end, and then we extruded that out, and then we made another sketch for this segment right over here, and then we also extruded that out, and then we made a sketch for the counterweights, and we also cut it out into the shape that we wanted, and then we filleted it, and we basically did that same exact procedure for the rest of them. Actually, when we got to the middle, we used linear pattern to save us a lot of time, and you'll see that we did that for many of our parts, um, and that really helped us save time. Okay, so now we're going to go into animations. You'll see that we have two animations. One of them is the general animation, and the other one is a more detailed animation. Okay, so this one is the general animation. For this video, you see all the parts that went into making this into the engine. And now we put it all back together. Okay. This is the detailed animation. So for this animation, you'll see the actual mechanical movements, the pistons moving up and down, the crankshaft and camshaft also rotating. And then you'll see a lot more of the smaller pieces that you weren't able to see in the other animation. And yep. Okay. And now the conclusion. So we really hope you enjoyed our presentation. We really enjoyed making this engine from scratch. We only had measurements and the actual parts to go by, and because of that, at times it seemed impossible to do. Sometimes we didn't even know where to start, but we got the hang of it. We also learned how to be a better team along the way and how to stay organized. This whole entire project was a huge learning experience. Okay, thanks for listening.